Do you remember a moment or a person where your career path or maybe your life path changed? For me, one of these moments was a phone call that I received when I was a freshman chemistry student in my dorm room one afternoon. I had written an email to Dr. Don Zapian, who was a chemistry professor at Slippery Rock University where I was studying, and I had asked him about research opportunities in his lab. I had seen other students doing projects in and out of labs around the department, and I'd asked my professor, my advisor, if I could participate too, and he recommended Dr. Zapian, someone I'd never met before. So it was a little bit scary when I typed out an email to him asking him, do you mind taking on a student who's eager to learn? And a couple of days later, he responded, yes, of course, we should talk about this, and we should talk about opportunities in my lab. What I didn't know at the time was this would have set me on a 3-year course of becoming a student who was dependent on Dr. Zapian for every little thing I did in the lab. I checked with him every day. This is the protocol that I want to do. Does this look fine? To whenever I graduated, I was asking him, what about this study? I've been reading about this paper. Do you think that this would be a good opportunity? And I was drafting my own manuscripts for my own studies at that point. And over the course of that 3 years, I had gone also from somebody who just simply enjoyed chemistry in my classes and doing my homework to somebody who wanted to be an independent researcher solving chemistry problems, just as I'd seen Dr. Zapian. And I've been thinking about over the past few years, now that I've graduated several years ago, why I still remember Dr. Zapian and why he was a good mentor. One of the traits that made him a successful mentor was that he shared his knowledge with me. He didn't just simply do things because it would have been easier for him to do when I wasn't in his way, but he wanted to teach me. We did mundane things such as how to fill out a purchase order, how do you look up reagents, how do you do paperwork, to more exciting things in the lab, setting up electronics, working with different reagents, and how do you troubleshoot different problems that come up in the lab. He also made the work that I did very meaningful. So we weren't just playing around in the lab, washing beakers or repeating experiments from textbooks. We were working on problems that were interest to the wider chemistry community. And he also, in addition to that, he also took me to a couple of different chemistry conferences while I was an undergraduate student. Another trait was that he challenged me constantly. So he was trying to build me up and get me ready for graduate school and independent research. And I can remember a moment in time when I had taken results to him and I said, these aren't good results. And he said, I want you to go away. He said, don't bother me anymore. This is probably about a year or two after I was working with him. And I got really frustrated, and it was because he said, you're not developing into a researcher. He said, you're just coming and telling me this is bad data without analyzing it and telling me why it's bad data. And another thing, and I think this is important, was he saw the students that worked with him as people, and he was really invested in both our personal lives as well as our professional lives and our future path. And he would often take us maybe about once a semester and once during the summer to the local pub to show his appreciation for the work that we were doing and also to celebrate. When I decided that I wanted to pursue chemistry as a PhD student, he helped me with understand what graduate school was, helped with my applications, my statement of purpose. And he made sure that I was a competitive candidate as well. So he nominated me for different awards. As I mentioned, we went to different conferences, the American Chemical Society, and they they were national conferences. And I remember him telling me just how important it was as a researcher to be part of the scientific community. And I guess one of the things I'm going to start crying here because he was just such a wonderful person. He drove 6 hours for my graduation when I got my PhD for my hooding ceremony, and that's how much his students had meant to him. And now that I'm further along in my own career and I have students and postdocs working with me, I hope that I'm able to pay it forward the way that Dr. Sapien helped me out. So taking time to share his knowledge, challenging me, providing positive feedback to help me grow, and committing to my success, not only personally, but also professionally. And thank you for your time.
And thank you, Nikki, for a very nice speech. Very touching speech about your relationship with your, I believe, undergraduate mentor in chemistry, Dr. Zeep. I like the organization of your speech. You talked about, well, you give an intro to how you met or got involved with Dr. Zapien in his lab. And then you had 3 points about how he related to his students, teaching instead of doing, challenging to be better at your research, and also committing to the success. And then concluding the speech. So organizational wise, it was a very good speech. Some other things that I thought were good about your speech was that you were very natural in your speaking. The speech didn't feel rehearsed or didn't feel like you were reading or anything like that. So your speaking was very natural, and I very much appreciated that. It felt conversational. It felt like you were talking to me, and so that got me, more invested in your speech and your content. So that was good. I also like that you did have the emotional element into the speech when we're talking about mentoring. Some people really did have a big effect on our lives, and thinking about it, you can get a little emotional. It's like, oh, these people are so great. So it was good to let yourself feel that during the speech, and then the audience can, use that to reflect in their lives and think about mentors. So that was a good element to not shy away from, but, admit that this makes you a little emotional. And another thing I thought was good about your speech is that you talked about how you're passing the same principles and ideals that your mentor had with you onto the next generation with your students. So it's good to see that this mentoring relationship will have an impact in the future with your relationship with your students. So very good all around, a very good speech about mentoring. Some things I thought you could improve was your body language and your use of your hands specifically. For most of the speech, you kind of sat in one space, didn't really move around, and we didn't see your hands. So I guess right now you can't see my hands. I just saw up here. So after a while, I was like, I wonder what her hands are doing. So I know in the virtual space, it's tough to do the body language thing, but maybe at one point you did actually, during the emotional part, your hands did come up and you were, I saw your hands, but maybe think about working on that in the virtual space as well. I think for a future speech, or if you give the speech again, a really impactful moment might be to show a picture of Dr. Zapien or a picture of him and you, maybe at your graduation, so we can get a visual of this person and kind of a visual of you and him together and see the impact. So those are 2 things that I can think of that might improve or enhance your speech in the future. But overall, I think it was a great speech, and we appreciate it. So thank you, Nikki.